In the last light of day, this is my go-to fly, the rusty spinner. This fly can represent many mayfly species and has the proper silhouette in low light. It also floats well on the surface film, making it a great trout snack. The pattern starts with a Fulling Mill 1180 all-purpose hook in a size 14. Begin by placing the hook securely in the jaws of your tying vise. I've recently started using all white thread, so here I load a bobbin with white 6/0 Danville. Start your thread about midways down the hook shank, then take a few wraps backward before snipping or breaking your tag. Save the tag because we'll be using it later. Instead of microfibbets, I prefer to use fibers from a 100% tapered dew point Tynex nylon paintbrush. Fish through the bristles to single out 2 fibers, then snip them off, taking your time to be sure the tips are aligned. The size of the tail is truly up to you, but I like to measure it about 2 hook shanks in length. Secure the fibers with several tight wraps of tying thread just behind the hook point to the barb, and make sure your tails are right on top of the hook shank. Give them a little crease to ensure they're splayed apart. Snip the excess butt ends off close. Then I like to advance my thread to the initial tie-in point. Recollect the tag we cut off earlier, then go under the hook bend, bringing both ends of the tag between the 2 tail fibers. Now create a little bit of tension to help splay the tail, then tie in the tag of thread. Take a few more wraps rearward to save your work, then snip off that pesky tag. For the body, I'm using a turkey biot quill in a rusty brown color. Notice how there are 2 sides, one with stiff fibers and the other with webby fibers. For a size 14, I like to use the webby side, but it's up to you. Now take a fine-tipped pick or bodkin to separate a single fiber from the feather, and then strip it free from the stem. I'm sure you can do a better job than I did here. Or you can just cut it, I guess. Orient the biot with the concave side facing you and the tip to the eye. And with webby side, I don't think it matters which edge you lead with. Cut off the creased or crushed tip if you have one. Then tie in the biot at the base of the tail, then again advance your thread to the initial tie-in point. Start by taking close touching wraps with the biot to form a very nicely smooth segmented body. Continue wrapping until you reach your tying thread. This is easier to use hackle pliers, but I chose not to here. Once you reach your thread, tie in the biot with 2 to 3 nice tight wraps of tying thread. Then reach in with a pair of tying scissors and snip the butt end off close. Because I left some tying thread exposed, I'm going to cheat. Being that I use white thread, I like to use fine-tipped permanent markers to change the color of the thread. This can be useful in many applications as shown here. And before you ask, yes, I store them in a KFC cup. Okay, back to tying. Cover up the butt of the biot to create a smooth transition to bare shank as shown here. For the wings on the fly, I prefer to use a McFly in white. I should also mention this is the pre-treated stuff for flotation. I choose McFly over Polypro because of its floatability. Because you don't need floating, it's treated with water shed so it doesn't soak up water. But Polypro or here macrame cord are other alternatives if you don't want to take out a second mortgage to get the really good stuff. Snip off a 3-inch segment of the McFly free from the hank. For a size 14, it's best to split the clump in half. Save the other one for another fly. I like to wax my thread to help tie in the slippy wing material, but you can also use a little dubbing ball. Start by bringing the wings under the thread to hold them in place. Then, the fussy part. Start taking a series of cross and figure 8 wraps to secure the wings to the hook as shown here. End with a small space of thread between the wings and the body. Then, collect both wings together, folding them back to snip them off even with the back edge of the hook bend. Then fan the wings out so the fish know they ain't bogus. This is important. For the thorax, I like to use Awesome Possum dubbing, here in brown. Grab a small clump from the packet. Form about 1.5 inch long dubbing noodle, then start taking wraps with the noodle in the same cross wrap fashion as before. Keep wrapping to form a chubby thorax on the fly, and be sure to check both top, sides, and bottom of the fly to make sure there are no bare spots. You shouldn't see any exposed tying thread. Once completed, you should end with bare thread at the back edge of the hook eye. Take several thread wraps to make a clean head on the fly. Grab your whip finish tool and use it to do a 4 to 5 turn whip finish. Seat the knot well, then again, snip or cut your tying thread free. Make sure your wings are nice and even and the tails are neatly splayed. Once again, I'll reach for my marker to color the head on the fly. There you have it, the Rusty Spinner.